Today we talk with our guest about racing everything from Ultra 4 buggies to beaters with a heater in the Cariboo area of BC. Grassroots racing is the core of off-road racing across Canada, and this club is doing it right. Are you into four-wheeling, camping, and exploring? How about off-road racing like mud bogs, short course, wheel-to-wheel racing, or even desert races? Well, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the 4x4 Canada podcast. My name is Wes, and I've been four-wheeling since I was 6 weeks old. I have over 20 years experience in 4x4 shops, many more than that in the off-road racing, and a lifetime of exploring the backcountry across Canada. Every week we bring you a new guest where they give you their perspective on the industry. We discuss everything from four-wheeling, overlanding, every form of off-road racing across this great country, as well as we talk to Canadian manufacturers and 4x4 shops. Just a quick reminder that if you're looking for more episodes, you can find all of our episodes on 4x4canadapodcast.com or your favorite podcast sharing platform. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at 4x4canadapodcast.com. Now let's get to the show. Our guest today grew up in a 4x4 family and continues that tradition today. He does a little mud bog and a little wheeling, some tough truck racing, you know, all the fun stuff. He's involved in a local 4x4 club that hosts a number of events ranging from racing rock buggies in 3 feet of snow to mud bogs and some Ultra 4 style racing. Rob from the Quesnel 4x4 Club, welcome to the 4x4 Canada podcast.
Oh, thank you for the call. I'm looking forward to talking to you, and I'm really enjoying the content that you've been putting out. I'm listening to guys that I've only heard about, and I feel like I want more.
Well, that's good. That's sort of the whole purpose. So that's good. It's keeping you interested on it. So the Quesnel 4x4 Club is based out of Quesnel in the BC interior. Over the last few years, the club has been hosting events, sort of a crossbreed of events, mud bogs, tough truck races, try to get a little bit of short course racing going, and even some Ultra 4 style racing out in the woods. Heck, they're even racing in 2 feet of snow this winter. I know there's a lot more races this year, but can you tell us a little about the club and what you guys had going on earlier this year?
Well, this year we started off by not able to cross the border and get all that stuff organized to go down to the Insanity Fab Winter Challenge. So this year we decided, what the heck, we'll try our own. We'll copy what they did for an event and hope for the best. Well, the snow was so deep, we had to get a cat down there to push the snow for a parking lot and just to get the track up and running. So we ran for a weekend of, I know Luke Pittman had 58-inch tires cutting tracks, and there was guys with 40-inch tires and 32-inch tires. And yeah, we had our own little race we called Snowvid 19, and quite successful. Probably one of the most exciting parts is beater with a heater class that we've been doing, because it's just any beater. You got to have a helmet, you got to have a harness, and as of now, a neck brace, and go out there and, compete with your friends and try to be sportsmanlike and keep it off the driver's door, but just give her and see what happens.
Yeah, from the photos I saw, it was pretty neat. It was a real, like you say, a real mix. You know, is there everything from rock buggies and guys with full body trucks and 44s or whatever to, you know, little guys on the 32s or 33s. And from everything I saw, it just looked like everybody's having so much fun. Being in the cold, I don't quite get that 100%, but especially the guys with no windshields and no windows. I mean, you know, they got to dress up warm for that. But yeah, like I say, everybody looked like they're having so much fun.
Well, a lot of the open buggies now, because we get so much snowfall up here, they have heaters. Like they go snow wheeling. They got some big tires.
Okay.
They got some 49s and some 46s, and so a lot of guys have transitioned into the snow wheeling stuff, because if we weren't snow wheeling, we'd be parked for half the year up here.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a good friend down here, a couple good friends that do a lot of snow wheeling, and they're in the 40-inch plus range. And I still do a bit of it with my little truck, but 33s and just doesn't quite keep up to the 44s, right? So, well,
my same thing with my Jeep's getting pretty heavy. I can't compete with these guys now, but I still try and tag along for what I can. At least with our track, we know it's a hard bottom, so we don't have to wait till springtime to get it back out.
Yeah, exactly. So on that snow wheeling event, was it sort of like a little a round loop that you guys did and the guys went kind of wheel to wheel, or how? Maybe you can explain to the listeners more about that race.
It was definitely a wheel to wheel. Our tracks basically progressed into about a 2.5 kilometer long obstacle course. In the dry conditions, I can make it around the track on 40-inch tires and two-wheel drive if I push it a bit hard. But it's a 3-minute to 5-minute lap usually event, and we'll do 3 to 5 laps depending on how much of a beat down you want to take, because it's tight in the trees, and the more I say our course isn't really hard, but you add speed and you add the trees to it, it definitely it'll beat up some parts, it'll break some parts. It's a lot of fun, and we keep progressing to try to make it longer and longer and a little more technical. Adjust it for the rigs that are on site. So
Yep.
This year, just the cutting of the trail, just like I say, we had 3.5 feet of snow, fresh snow. It's been snowing all week, so cutting those tires through some of that snow, it was definitely some difficult passes this year.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a lot of fun, like I say, though. So moving on to some of your other events, you had a variety of other events earlier this spring up in Quesnel.
Well, the spring that we went from that race, we went to just an obstacle course race, which is just a simple, same thing, same track. We run the track in reverse for some of the events. We'll qualify one way and qualify another way, and then we flip a coin, do a land rush type start. It's a smaller event than, say, our mud bog. Our mud bog's done on the Billy Barker Days long weekend. And it's just a smaller, fun event with, say, 20 to 25 trucks. I've been trying to push a lot of the two-wheel drive type racing, or what I guess you'd say the short course racing, but we can never seem to get the group of guys together. I know the rigs are out there. We have a spot where we could plow in any kind of track we want for these guys. We're just hoping that we can revive it a bit.
I think since the Camels track died a number of years ago, a lot of the rigs have been parked. I mean, Merritt was happening for a couple of years, but it's just a matter, like you say, there's a lot of these rigs out throughout BC, and they're just sitting in the back 40 or, in the garages, and it's just a matter of trying to get some of these guys out.
Well, we've definitely actually gotten help from the Merritt off-road guys.
Yeah,
we have Rob's involved with us, and like I say, just listening to what they've done and what they've gone through has actually helped our group get to where we've got to now, because essentially the 4x4 group, it's a lot of the same pitfalls everybody has, and at least those guys holding our hands a little bit through some of these events, and how to attract vehicles, and just a contact list. When we started this club earlier on, some of our first races, I was asking everybody for messenger contacts, anything. I was sending invites all across Western Canada. Some days, you'd be amazed who shows up here to race, just because we have something going on. It's a new event, a new location, and it's getting away from the mud, and the atmosphere of the track is pretty relaxed. It's a lot of fun after hours too. So I don't want to tell people, but from our track, there's a way to pretty much get down to McDonald's, we'll say, without hitting too much asphalt. So it's pretty interesting what ends up going down there in the 2 or 3 in the morning. So. But
we'll keep that one under wraps.
Yeah, I'm usually sleeping at that point, so I only hear about it.
Yeah. So running the obstacle style race through there, you're running the Ultra 4 style vehicles like your buggies, right up or right down to the beater with a heater style vehicles with stock vehicles on 31s and such. I kind of forgot where I was going on this.
How do we classify vehicles?
Running these different all these different vehicles, what are you looking at for different classifications, and what are you guys looking at for some car counts? Where are you seeing your biggest car counts?
Well, I'd say our biggest car count, it changes because a lot of the local guys that are the rock crawler type vehicles, they compete. It's a mixed bag. So when we organize an event, we leave it a little bit loose for rules. We kind of see what shows up and kind of classify guys within what they brought. So a lot of times we'll do some stock suspension. So that can be lift kits and bigger tires. There's not a lot of restrictions on that. And then we'll have a aftermarket suspension sort of style, like ORI style. Anything that's, not, if it's linked, we'll kind of go to another class. So we try to break it up so everybody's fair, keeping the sportsmanship alive. A guy will say, that guy has that, and this guy has that. We haven't had a lot of those issues for classes. We just have guys that want to come race, make laps, and seat time. Seat time's a big thing.
Is there other events like yours up in I know you guys have got quite a few events, and you guys have got a good number of volunteers. You also mentioned earlier that you guys did most of your events in the first part of the year so that your volunteers could go to other events out later in the year. And I know you're just at Houston this past weekend. What else is up in the Cariboo and the northern part of BC for some fun events?
Well, there's lots of mud bog type races and stuff like that. Like I prefer the obstacle. I prefer, the non-mud stuff. Like Houston is an event that we all wanted to go to. I think 9 guys from Quesnel, and it's a 5-hour drive to Houston, went up there. But we have like the 100-mile horsepower ranch. Those guys are putting on some pretty great events. Like we have a lot of support behind them because, like I say, what they're doing and keeping it going. I think Prince George may get an obstacle course put in this year at their mud bog track, which is on the drag strip property. I've been in talks with them. I know that they're trying to work harder to get some different vehicles out versus just drag racing. There's another event that's going to probably happen next year in Fort Fraser as well, with the same kind of thing, obstacle course and the mud bogs combined. Yep. But I find so far that most of Canada, this part of Canada, hasn't got into, other than say the off-road short course sort of stuff, which has faded away, unfortunately. No, we don't have a lot of venues to go to. But what's great about our track is they say we're in control of the property 365 days a year. So we have the options to put our races on. And we went into this year to do it early just so we could all enjoy going to other places. Like, say, I'd like to go back to King of the Hammers this year again if I can, and back to Insanity Fab Winter Challenge. And so trying to pack it all in, we're focusing on concentrating all our volunteer work in a short period of time, and then going to other venues.
It definitely makes sense to me for sure. Now, for those that are interested in the Quesnel 4x4 Club and their events, probably the easiest way is to check out the Quesnel 4x4 Club on Facebook, right?
Yeah, like the Quesnel 4x4 Club public page. That's where all the public information goes. The true identity of the club is the Quesnel Off-Road Association, which would be the legal business name of what runs the track.
Right.
If you're in the network of our group, we do some private races as well. Just a fun run down there for the weekend, take our campers down there. But anything that's public is open to the public. Or if there's other things to share in the province, I definitely encourage people to post it on the Quesnel 4x4 public page, because that's what it's for. To encourage it and get some pictures up there, see what you're building, try and get the sport back to what it was a few years ago. And like I say, we're always looking for more events to go to ourselves. Like I definitely have a list of places I want to go. And like I say, I just don't have enough time.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that time. And when you have the time, you don't have the money. And when you have the money, you don't have the time, right?
That's right. And I drive a Jeep, so I'm never racing to win. I'm just racing to be there.
Now, your events remind me a lot of the more, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but the older events that you and I used to go to as kids, the old obstacle races, sand drags, and it really just, it honestly reminds me a lot of that. Just some people out having fun and out racing, and the biggest part about it is just having fun. And you still see that down on the island, down in Port Alberni, but other than that, a lot of the events sometimes tend to be into how do I word this properly, but too
competitive.
Too competitive. About the money, all about the who's winning. And I mean, yes, everybody wants to win, but you want to go out there and you want to have fun. And that really reminds me about those old play days that we used to go to as kids. And Quesnel has quite a big history in the four-wheel drive world. There's racing back in the early 70s with the play days and different things like that. You had Tommy Moore and Roger and Don Mercer and lots of people like that. And eventually it grew into the mud bogs in Quesnel. I don't know if you knew this or not, but my parents actually met at a four-wheel drive event in Quesnel.
Well, I think of you as a better person now. No question. That's awesome.
My dad was part of the Sagebrush Four Wheelers here in Kamloops back in, I guess it was 69 when they met or whatever. And the club went up to Quesnel to do a combined run with the Quesnel 4x4 Club. And they met up there, and the rest is history. So,
Well, so like, say I grew up as a little kid down the Cowichan Valley there, and my dad was heavily involved having a 51 flat fender Jeep he was racing, and they were the obstacle course, hill climb, sand drags, and he talks about something called team relay. I don't really know what that is, but maybe we can do
Oh,
that. And
team relay, you guys need to bring that in. It is so much fun. Basically, you'll have 3 teams of 2 vehicles out of various points of the course. So team 1 consists of, we'll say Rob and Todd, right? And so they both line up together and say Rob will go around and do one whole loop. And then as he comes to Todd, he'll pull off, and then Todd will go down around and do one whole loop. Then whoever has the fastest time wins. Like whatever team.
okay,
Yeah, whatever team has the fastest time. Actually, I think it's. I think it actually may be. I actually think it's teams of 3. I think is what it was. So I know they still do that in the island. So if you got more, want more information about that, talk to the guys down to the island because they do it every race, and it's a lot of fun. We did it out in Calgary as well when the ground pounders were still active in that. So, but it's really interesting. So you sort of almost get the wheel to wheel aspect because you're starting at say point A and you're trying to go point B, point C, and then back to point A. So you're trying to catch the people ahead of you, but you're also on a team, right?
see, that sounds like a good time. Like that bringing the fun back to the sports has been the big thing because you can spend money till you're blue in the face, but if you're not having fun, it's
Yeah.
it's done.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Definitely have a look at the guys in the island. They're doing that, and I know it's some of their funnest times of the weekend, and it's really interesting. Like sometimes they'll even take like something for you guys might be an example is say take a buggy like a rock buggy or whatever or a bigger modified vehicle like yours, and you can say that okay, you can have one super modified vehicle, but you also must have one beater with a heater style
okay,
vehicle or
okay,
stock vehicle, right?
yeah.
So that you can kind of make it even. And as long as nobody gets in any pissing matches about who they want in each team and stuff like that. But I think that would be kind of a neat thing is that every vehicle must have a stock style, or every team must have a stock style vehicle
Yeah.
on their team. Who starts off first is totally up to them, right?
Well, yeah, we could flip a quarter for that. Like I say, that's how we do a lot of our racing areas. Is when we have everybody lined up for a race, we flip a quarter to see which direction we're going on the track because it's quite a distinctly different track on one going one way versus the other. Like some parts are way easier and some parts are way harder,
Yep.
and everybody with a vehicle seems to have a different opinion on which way they want to go.
The team relays are a lot of fun. I think you guys should definitely do that. I do hope to get up there this summer or this next spring for an event and just come up and hang out with you guys. And, I got some people I've got, my whole mom's side of my family is up in Quesnel. So I need to go up and see those guys. But I definitely want to come and, hang out with you guys at the track for a day for sure.
It's a lot of fun. And like one thing about our group of people, we've focused on keeping like entry fee for like admission to come watch cheap. It's like under 17s all free, because if somebody wants to drag down their 6 kids and they only want to watch for half an hour before the kids get upset, like we've turned our focus back towards low cost, make it fun, make it so it's not $100 to get the family down there. Even with our food vendors, we've tried to work with them to make sure that keep the costs down. We're right in town. We got local hotels if you want to stay, but camping for racers is always free. Lots of area, and like that's part of bringing the fun back. Unfortunately, fuel to get to a race now is a bit expensive, but while you're here, it's one of those things. Like I say, I want to make sure you're not broke when you go home, because the prize money can definitely be nothing. But so that's all equal across the board. But keeping the fun level high.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's a great way to do it, and especially as things are tight with prices are going up. Whether it be fuel or food or whatever, everybody's watching their wallets a lot more. So the more fun you can have for the bang for your buck kind of ideas.
We're also fortunate to have like Sasquatch Off Road. The guys in town that have that shop, they're such a big supporter, and they build so much of the stuff, and they're so heavily involved directly with us. It's if without support of those guys and the push from them to make it happen, like they'll pay for trophies and pay for this, and sometimes it's just picking up the tab for all the water we got delivered to the track for like a mud race event or anything else. But we're very, very fortunate in the Cariboo to have the support that we do. and have the property that we do. So, we got to keep pushing it up here and, get more trucks up. And I'm always personally trying to search out more user groups for the property. Like, I've offered the property for guys to test. If you want to go test your rig, because we're insured 365 days a year. It's always open, or user groups like an RC club or lawnmower racing, because I want to see the utilization of what we have before it gets
Yeah.
lost. And that's why I like to see the short course racing come back in and actually plow a proper track in there. It's very exciting racing, very fast.
I know Corey's been trying to get some wheel-to-wheel racing happening up there with some of the trucks that he's brought up in the past. Like you said, there's lots of them sitting out there, so it's just a matter of getting them out.
100%. Same thing as our group of people that's involved. We like to go to different racetracks and see what they have. We went down to the Island Cup this year at Western Speedway there.
Yep.
Man, what an event. I broke 20 feet in. But you know what? I tell you,
it's
Corey,
a Jeep thing.
It just embarrassed itself real quick. But, that event is the same thing as like BC and having events like that, just over the top, like the support, the people, the show they put on. Like, I was totally cool just watching the whole time. We don't have a venue yet for anything like that, but just trying to keep those we have a few of those type of rigs here, like Sam competed and he did really well down there. But just going to any event I can in the province and seeing what they have to offer is definitely, key to me and key to our whole group.
The other thing too is, I don't know if this is a club to get involved with, if there is somebody in the Quesnel area that's thinking about getting into wheeling and stuff like that. Does your club do much for trail wheeling, or are you guys mostly a race club?
Well, that's where the Quesnel 4x4 public page is kind of set up. If somebody wants to post and go look for something or check something out, it's always fairly open. Like, there's always places. There's always places to go. There's always people at every level in this area, and I've offered the track a lot of times. Say to people, I go, hey, you want to go down there and just have some fun and maybe find a few winch points and go try your skills in a safe spot. That's always open. But we're very inclusive to anybody and what anybody's doing. So if somebody posts up, hey, we want to go to Wineglass Falls, or you want to go over Yanks Peak or Barkerville, there's always a group ready to go. And
nice.
And the nice thing about about the Facebook page as well is, if you need to reach out because you're stuck somewhere or something's going on or you need a part, a lot of times you'll see some pretty good stories on there of somebody going up to Hickson to pull somebody out or anything else. And that's a really nice thing that we've had going for quite a while now.
Yeah, I've noticed that on there for sure. So let's talk about your rig. It's just a little baby Cherokee, I know.
It cries a lot, but it's just, I can tell you right now that I'm not necessarily a Jeep guy, but they were the cheapest thing on the go. And so, I've just gone through it, and I finally got tired of bending everyone and making it a bit shorter and a bit narrower, hitting everything. So I finally got an exo cage built by the guys in town at Sasquatch. It's been on its roof, it's been on its side, it's been all over. It's got 40-inch tires, but the Dana 44 diffs are really holding me back now. Luckily, with 90 horsepower of 4-liter motor in there, it kind of keeps it together. But
well,
it's done King of the Hammers a couple times. Like,
yeah. 40s on the next J. You're showing me pictures the other night. You sent me some pictures, and it's like that's pretty cool. 40s on the next J. So
it's got a set of 37-inch stickies too. We got a couple spots around our area that actually has some rock to it, so you can actually use them. And I tell you, leaving those 37s will break that thing pretty quick too. So, like next year, I'm not probably supposed to talk about it, but we are going to put an invite-only rock race on at a private location up here, because we got a couple spots with some pretty nice boulder sort of stuff, some natural terrain, and it's gonna be a rodeo without the horses, but it should be a good time.
Nice. So, speaking of vehicles that you've owned, let's I know we're hopping around a bit, but let's hop back to your dad's flat fender.
Okay.
I've seen pictures of it. Your little baby blue. What was up with that? I know your dad raced on the island with it.
Yeah. So that was I was a little kid then. So I said that was a 51 flat fender, 327 automatic Jeep. I know he told me he had 513 gears. I actually asked him the other night about a couple questions about it, because I would be too little to remember. All I can remember hanging off the roll cage as a kid. It was a Dana 44 front and rear, and they raced all over. Like, the Cowichan Valley had I think the River Bottom Road racing going on, the Port Alberni stuff. Cassidy for the drags was big at the time.
Yep.
And I think he said there was a group called the Cowichan Valley Roamers, which is a pretty involved club back then. And they probably the guys who are putting all the events and stuff on. He said they got into that racing back in the day after Van Isle Dragway closed. And so a lot of guys on the island still wanted to race, and that's what it turned into. And, that's a lot of that was even before my time. But burning fuel in the Cowichan Valley was always a big deal. And, there's still a lot of that stuff floating around. Like I say, Port Alberni's still going fairly strong. So, but after that, I grew up, I was a drag racer. From 16 on, I was a drag racer. I was the guy out there seeing how long of a burnout I could do. I had that magic touch. If you had a car with not enough horsepower, I could get that one tire to light up and spin a tire off. And so, yeah, for many years of my life, it was just drag racing. That's all I thought about was drag racing. And then until this 4x4 came along, and that was it. Just another thing to suck the wallet dry.
So did you get into the four-wheeling after you moved up to Quesnel?
No, I got into it probably when I was about 27 when I really got into it, when I moved back to Victoria. And, I grew up, say, in Shawnigan Lake and in Lake Cowichan, so just the exploring. So the gates started coming up all over down there, so you had to get around the gate. Yep. So you had to get a more capable vehicle. And like I say, and $1,200 in my pocket and a guy with an XJ for sale, and I was hooked. From, going out to the events that Frog Stompers they were putting on was always a fun time, and driving back over the Malahat home with just a front drive shaft in there, and on the gas you're into the oncoming lane, and then off the gas you're hitting the barrier on the other side. It was
good times.
Well, I made it through it, so
yeah.
And then once we moved up here, we were a lot more into the 4x4ing. The May long weekend, they do the Quesnel Canyon crawl, which has always been a big deal up here. And I was sad I missed the first year when I moved up here because I hadn't moved up in time. And then from then on, it turned into quite the event. And man, I've seen some good stuff and some bad stuff happen down there. But
that event's been around for years.
It's tapered off the last few years. Like you'll get a big group from Prince George. Just some of the stuff out there, some roads got blocked off. You couldn't get down. And there's been the canyon itself's been sliding. So there's a spot there. A lot of rigs couldn't get through. So you couldn't do the loop. I think this year it'll be strong again. I think it's going to come back again because it's just a fun weekend. Everybody camps out. And like I say, it's just like being at the track, except for not the track.
It's been going for years. And like I say, I think it did die down a bit. Everything I've heard is there's some interesting stories going around. Let's leave it at that.
Well, I could say, our market up here's changed from 44-inch boggers to 43-inch stickies. So it's made quite a transition. Big sticky tires are never common up here, but we got another spot out towards Nazco where we got a big outcropping of a volcanic area that we kind of opened up a little bit. I don't want to give away all the spots, but you'd still have to find it. Like I say, it's just changed. So I'll go down to the canyon this year and chew up some mud probably, but I'm still bigger into the clean stuff these days.
I have to admit I'm not a mud fan myself and never really have been, but there's lots of people that are, and more power to them. And hopefully we're going to get some of those people on here. I'd like to get some of the folks from the Horsepower Ranch.
Yeah, the Davies, they're great people. They're great people. And like I said, you asked about interviewing people like guys like Kyle Walton, the Axle Busters, man. Like those guys are going up, chewing up everything all over, having a great time. Their group came up to one of our races. Great group of people, great attitude. Everything's just positive. Like, let's make this happen. I enjoy watching it. I'm just not, that's just not where I'm currently at. But man, if somebody if somebody taunts me, I'm in. I'm going in.
Like I say, the folks from the 100 Mile, from the Horsepower Ranch, the Davies, I mean, both of their rigs are they're something that could easily go down and run with the big rigs down in Florida, right? It's...
Well, the J-Hook, they're bringing that big J-Hook racing up. Like, that's exciting racing. There's no question.
Oh,
watching those trucks take off and jump and everything else. And it's just like, that technology has never been like it is now. It's crazy. Like
I have to admit, one of the big questions I've been getting lately is, when are you going to have some females on in regards to guests? So I got to get a hold of Leanne and bring her on board. And then I think everybody would really enjoy listening to her talk about their rigs and Horsepower Ranch for sure.
Well, actually, even at our racing, there's quite a few girls that race. Like I say, a lot of times it's husband and wife that race the same rigs and stuff like that. And so some days you don't even know who's behind that wheel, and And
Yeah.
sometimes I say he's not winning, but she is.
I think your dad is racing on the island, same time my dad's racing in the interior. And my mom would go into ladies' races, and there's lots of times where she's pulling in some fast times. There's a lot of really good lady drivers out there. There's a lot of really good lady drivers that are actually better than a lot of men out there. So,
well, you can ask our friend Wade Uberman up in Houston there, who drove his truck the fastest on the weekend. And it definitely wasn't him, I don't think. But there might have been two different girls that drove his truck that beat him. So that's I think it definitely put a smile on everybody's face there.
Yeah, that's great. So here's a real random question for you: winch or locker first? Depending on, I guess, what you're doing with it, right? But in regards to a regular wheeler,
I'm going to go with the winch first, because if you're not scared of rev limiter, one in the front, one in the back will take you a long ways. And once you got that long ways and can't make it out, that winch will save you. Because once you're buried with a locker, you're still phoning friends. One thing I can tell any 4x4 club out there to do is one thing that we've done that's brought more people together than anything you can imagine is we have a turkey deep fryer. And everywhere we go, we got a French fry cutter and 20 pounds of potatoes. And every race that we've ever gone to is, I think, our club's more well known for deep frying festivities than anywhere else. Like when I pulled into Houston the other day, I got about 6 guys asking me, making sure I had the deep fryer with me. But when we go to the States or we go anywhere, that deep fryer comes out, and holy smokes, that is the ticket out there.
That is cool. That is really cool. Here's another random one for you, Rob. Actually, two. It's going to be a 2-part question for you that I did not prepare you with at all. So if you could go watch any race in the world, doesn't matter whether 4x4 or F1 or whatever, if you had the chances to go all paid to go watch a race, where would you go?
That's a tough one, because I'm going to think of one place and go to another. I've been to King of the Hammers a couple times and watched that.
Okay.
And you know what? Man, just exciting, crazy, over the top. I've been to NASCAR race, and that's all right. The stadium truck racing stuff they're doing now with Robbie Gordon and those guys with the asphalt surface and the jumps. I think that'd be pretty exciting right now to watch, because like the way those trucks fly.
I think you'd really enjoy Crandon, Wisconsin, with the short course trucks and the buggies. Same ideas, you're talking about the short course with Robbie Gordon and that. But yeah, I think you'd definitely love one of those pro short course races,
like sprint car racing on the dirt when you're on a small track and it looks like a sprint car is coming right at you. Like any of that kind of racing where you get involved in, like you're just, you're in the audience and you feel like you're racing the car, like you're right there. It's there's too many. And I tell you, like every time we go to a new track and it's a fun event, it comes with the group, it comes with the crowd. Like I love the Ultra 4 stuff. Ultra 4 stuff is, I say that's race car plus 4x4, because those things are just unreal. And we got a lot of local Canadian guys that are just doing very, very well with it.
Yeah, that's definitely grown on me in the last 5 years or so. And before, it obviously evolved from just the rock crawling events. And I thought the rock crawling events were kind of cool, kind of idea, but from a spectator standpoint, right? But going to the Ultra 4 style where they're having some rock crawling and then they've got some speed into it with some of the desert or the longer, smoother sections. To me, I think that's a great combination as a real test of skill as well. I find, because somebody might be really good at the rock crawling and somebody might be really good at desert racing or that style of racing, but doing a combination of it is a real test of skill of the driver as well as for the vehicle itself, right? So
that's like the track in North Idaho, like I said, where the Winter Challenge is held at. Like I can say when we competed in there, like I didn't know if I was in that Jeep for 5 minutes or 2 hours. It's so intense. Like it's just I think it was a 5-lap event, but it's so intense. Like I don't know to this day, but man, oh man, just the excitement. But even that, there's an event right there for somebody to go watch, because there's so many different sections you can get right on top of and watch this guy roll over top of that guy, and it's all commitment now. It's all commitment. Great times. I just like I say, I don't think there's enough time left to go to everything I want to. We used to
on that one.
The Luxton Tough Truck Challenge they used to do there in Victoria. Man, like that same thing right there, right on top of it, and more great action, like so much of it. So
that was the one where they had the big right in the arena, right?
Yes,
and they had so right in the arena, and then they had some cement stuff there, and they had the big culverts and things like that. That was definitely a fun event.
there's so many, like we put on. So one strength and one thing that we did really well, played really well during all this COVID lockdown stuff, is we ran races through the whole thing. So we were kind of the only guys really in Western Canada putting races on. And we just, as a group, talked about it and says if people want to be there and people, a lot of area, a lot of, freedom, if you want to go hang out at your trailer and stay away from people. We were very, very fortunate that we did some private racing and some, lightly public racing, we'll say. That really put us on the map because we're doing it. It might be bad to say, but a couple of us just said, if we don't have handcuffs on, we're not stopping racing here. We had guys, like we had that one race, there was like 19 cars that came up to race, and it was basically like, say, an Ultra 4 race in Quesnel, which is just unheard of. And the guys that came from Western Canada all across to this race was just, just banana. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know if we can ever do it again, but we're still going to work on it. We're going to try and work on getting some more land to make our track longer. So we've been building on that quite a bit, and I like our racing here. And that's one thing is, like you say, when you go into different events, like say, I like our racing because I'm totally involved in it and I get to be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, so, exactly. Going back to your races, are you guys going to do another snow vid race?
I think so. The feedback we got from it was very, very positive. It's always tough to make sure we have that window where we have enough snow to make it a snow race. But like I say, the feedback, it went on pretty easy. The guys that show up to a race like that are, they're all about it. They don't need all the flashy stuff and the bells and whistles. Like we didn't put transponders in for that because some races will do that proper transponder system.
Okay.
But I think so. What I would actually kind of like to do, and this is more to the short course styles, I'd like to get the opportunity to put some water down on the oval portion of the track and see some guys go around there with some, 2-wheel drive stuff and do some sliding out there, a little bit of ice racing. Maybe if it works out right, we can incorporate something into that this year as well.
Probably one of the bigger struggles is a lot of guys have their vehicles apart in the winter as they're redoing if they can plan for it.
With the snow wheeling, you'd be surprised around here because,
that's true. Yeah.
It is, it's definitely, like, I'm broken lots of times, but I'm always trying to get it put back together. But yeah, you'd be surprised in the wintertime. There's some pretty big runs that we have, some spots we go under the river. And like I say, you get 40, 50 trucks going down there and for a big chew in a day. So there's usually enough to make it happen. Just a different set of tires, just a bigger set of flotation tires and good to go.
So what vehicle do you regret selling over the years?
Well, I've never really sold any of my vehicles. Other than maybe a couple, I sold them to ICBC after something bad happened by accident. I still have the car I've drag raced for 20 years is still sitting here. Like say, every Cherokee I had is not quite the same shape, and at that point, you didn't really want it anymore. So I've been pretty fortunate to keep every piece of junk I've ever really wanted in my yard.
Good for you. You'd be surprising how many people answer that question the same way.
Well, man, like I'm not a guy with anything really nice, but I really use it quite a bit. So
yeah,
that's
you have fun with it, right? So
that's right. I get all the value out of it.
So, is there anything that you think that we've missed?
More people need to know about how Quesnel has we're like the start of the Alexander Mackenzie Trail. There's a huge spot where people like to wheel once the water comes down. We have really great representation with the 4-Wheel Drive Association of BC, with Chad up in Prince George. So we have there's a pretty good group of those guys. A lot of the stock type friendly wheeling, there's a lot of that. Like you can go over Yanks Peak from the Barkerville side and come out in Likely right over top of the mountain and not too modified of a vehicle. There's 2 sisters you can drive up. Like that's one thing that we also have up here is a lot of the not over the top wheeling, like stuff that's just friendly and nice views and no gates. We'll say no gates is a big one.
Yeah, that's huge. That's one nice thing about the interior, whether it be the interior or the Cariboo, is that there's so much wheeling for stock vehicles or closer to stock vehicles, and you can go for days and days just exploring and not cross the same road. But then there's still some hidden gems of some good wheeling as well.
I like to make fun of the rooftop tent crowd, but honestly, it looks like those guys are having a lot of fun out there. So, maybe I'll join them one day. But, like I said, there's just so much exploring to do. Like I say, it's endless.
The other thing about if I won the lottery and retired early and just travel, the BC, I don't think I could do all of BC in a summer there's just so much exploring to do, right? Like we're so lucky that
Well,
way.
yeah, I've always said that the two things I need in life is beer and gasoline, and I'd have a good time.
Exactly.
But it seems like there's a shortage of both these days. One day's exploring, and the next day's rocks, and one day's cutting trails. Being that I'm from the coast and from the island and see what happens down there, like the island is definitely a cool place, but here we have so much freedom. We know we're so lucky. We're so fortunate. I encourage people. I'll tell people if you're coming up to the race up here, I'll say, hey, like if you're coming to a big event, if you got some extra time, if you want, I'll give you a maps to some of these other places to go see. If you want to go, like say, Barkerville area and go check out the old town, or if you want to go find some hard rock mines, or you want me to show you where a trail starts to somewhere else, so you can spend a few days exploring, like or guys from Quesnel will jump right on board and they'll show you where these places are. Like it's not a lot of secrets, we'll say. Because it's a smaller population, the more it gets used, the better. The more established it comes as a 4-wheel drive trail, for sure. The less chance they have of shutting it down for something that doesn't exist.
So one of the last questions that I usually ask every guest is, what Canadian would you like to listen to on the 4x4 Canada podcast?
Man, I got to say, I got a list. I told you I got a list.
It's all good. I'd love to hear them all.
Like I say, the Axle Buster guys and Kyle Walton, that great group pushing it out there all the time. Definitely the Davies Milehouse, because I guess the same thing. They're putting on some exciting racing. The Island Cup guys like Corey Hines, like same thing. Good guy, pushing the sport, making sure people are taken care of. Keeping the excitement that nowhere else has. The Villeneuves, from Kelowna, like the Kelowna Snowwheeler, same thing. As I love watching the pictures they got, the places they go, and everything else. I know they were talking about some Mountain Havoc style course down that way. I'd really like to see that happen, because there's some more exciting racing. I could go on forever.
Well, that's one of the reasons I asked the question too, is because there's a lot of times I've got a little bit of knowledge of everything, but I don't know the ins and outs or the people. And I think there's a lot of people that our listeners would like to hear from, like the Davies or the Island Cup guys.
Like another guy like Eric Brinker from Brinkfab. Man, I was in his shop earlier this year in Red Deer, and man, it's just like I just love everything that's getting built and seeing these cars come together. Like they're building cars that they're going to race King of the Hammers. So many guys like this. I think the list will go on and on.
Yeah, I actually saw a video the other day from Blind Man Overland, who does the pop-up campers there. He was in the Brinkfab shop getting some work done on his Nissan, and some of the stuff that they had going on in the shop was really impressive over at Brinkfab there.
One person I'd actually like to definitely give some credit to is like a guy like Orville McLeod with Ibex Off-Road Videos, because and Blaine came up from Blaine's Off-Road Videos. A lot of those guys have been the guys that have helped put us on the map. They videotape it. They're all over. They're traveling to every event. They get to see everything, and those guys know everybody, and they're the nicest people. And like I say, being very fortunate with their essentially advertising for us or their promotions of our track. I'd say the video guys in this province are a very important part of keeping it alive, making sure British Columbia is on the map.
Definitely. Yeah, Ibex Off-Road, I've seen some of his videos of your guys' races up in Quesnel, and that's kind of what prompted me to, realize, hey, you guys got some really good stuff. I mean, you and I have talked in the past, but visual always helps, right?
It's anywhere else I've been there, seen like, oh my God, look what they're doing there. I'm in, I'm going. Like, it's more than just a few pictures, because we've all been to the track with a few good pictures, and you get there and you go, oh, this is it. They come up all the time from southern BC. It's a long drive, and just to videotape it, and they're not getting nothing from us. We're just fortunate to be rewarded from what they're taping.
Anybody else on your list that you can think of?
Well, there's a few more names on there, but I don't want to go too crazy. But, like I say, any of the Ultra Force stuff, it's so many people I've met have been such good people. Like when Curtis Warner shows up, that's Flying Zucchini, but like just their attitudes are always so positive. Everything's so upbeat, and Chris Stevens and, like guys like that, like I say, that are helping push the sport, but they show up everywhere with a smile, and that makes it worthwhile after you spent a few weeks organizing a race, praying, hoping, getting insurance and porta potties, and the list of people like that just makes the guy's days.
I've spent some time with Curtis before, and like you say, him and his brother, and they're both, all of them, everything from the kids to their
whole family,
to, the whole family, the whole Warner family is just wonderful people. can't say good things about them for sure. So I think, you've definitely given me some other ideas on people to approach, to be future guests. As you know, that we just had Tim from TMR Racing on the other day.
Yeah, same thing. And
that was
big sports spot. That guy supports the sports huge. Like, who doesn't have TMR on their buggy, of some sort? And just listening to a guy that's like, hey, this guy kind of just sounds like a normal person. This is awesome. Definitely Canadian, and definitely is proud to have people in our country that are pushing it. Like the Northwest Fab guys. Like, some of the products Northwest Fab's pushing off is just like unreal. Like, years ago, I went in their shop and all these CNC machines working and everything else, and I was just, wow, like I say, blown away.
Yeah, I've actually got the Northwest Fab guys on my list for sure to contact. So Tim from TMR, I really enjoyed that interview. I just shot out an email, after Steve McCrossan was on with his TMR sponsored Bronco. We went down to Nora, and I was like, oh, I'll just, I'll give it a shot. But I wasn't sure that I would get, a response. And Tim was just like, yeah, like, let's do this. And I think he, understands kind of, why I started the podcast and try and spread the word about all formats of, 4x4 Canada or four-wheeling in Canada. And he was 100% aboard. And, as you listened, it was a really good interview. And
yeah, it was great. I'm going to look into his racing series to see what we can bring from his series, because it's so far away to incorporate on ours, because obviously they got some more stuff figured out, and they got a 5-race series. And that's, that's what we like to get to the point where we got a bit of a race series going. And
well, it was interesting when he was talking, he said very much almost like what you guys have going up there, in that there's, a race here and a race there and a race in this town, and nobody was really joined in regards to rules, and, you'd be put into a different class if you go to a different place, right?
We might have a 4-race series next year, what we're looking at doing. I'm going to have a proposal put together probably the next week or so, like I say, between here, Houston, Fort Fraser, and Prince George, because we have some places to do what we're doing. And it would be like a mud bog and obstacle course race, both of them, so we can have, both groups of people. We do have a really strong group up north right now, and like I say, if we start putting it together, we can make something real of it and get it all, get us all back on the map again.
And still keeping that whole grassroots thing, because the grassroots aspect is, honestly, one of the things I love about your guys' racing. I mean, there's some really good rigs, and there's some guys who put some money into their rigs, but everybody's out there for the fun, whether they're driving a little Ford Ranger with 30-inch tires on it, or, the guy's driving a buggy with 40s, right? So
that's right. And I'm not sure if you ever watch any of the Penn and Teller show. Like Penn and Teller, they've been on TV for years. And so you got to look at our group like the Penn and Teller. I'm the big fat loud one, and there's everybody quiet behind me that's making things happen. That's really what we are. And luckily that we have all the people in our group. It's as strong as it's ever been. Anybody shows up with anything, as long as we look at it, it's safe. The person's got a helmet, like, we're going to put you in there. Like, we're going to let you do what you feel comfortable with, because that you're going to be the next guy that's buying the Ultra 4 buggy.
Yep, exactly. Once again, you can check out their Facebook group at Quesnel 4x4 Club Public. That's where a lot of the information is, and we'll start hopefully seeing information coming out for next year's events over the next 3-4 months, I guess. And
December we'll have it out.
Well, especially if you're going to do another Novid, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was what, February last year, end of January.
Yeah, I think it was the start of February. Like I was saying, it was the Canadian alternative to Insanity Fab Winter Challenge, with a twist of Quesnel. So it was Lucky Beer versus instead of Budweiser. So
awesome, beautiful. All right, Rob, I thoroughly thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Again, Rob from the Quesnel 4x4 Club, and really appreciate you coming on board.
Okay, until next time.
You bet. Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.